So this is a mud bottom 2-acre swamp that has the 200 alligators, and it actually has 2 American crocodiles. And then you can see the bird load that it takes. And so this is a clarity issue for us, and we will work with you to try to figure this out at some point.
So John, explain. So Trevor's asking, explain why the birds come here.
Okay, yeah. So all of these birds are wading birds that exist here in Florida. There's egrets and herons and spoonbills and wood storks. Many of them are endangered, but they have to find a place to sleep at night. And raccoons will know that. Raccoons and possums will climb trees and eat them while they're asleep. And so as long as they pick trees that are above alligators, there's no raccoons or possums that get them. And they come here and nest for the exact same reason. They nest so close to the boardwalk that you could pick eggs out of the nest. They're that frequently that close to the people because they're just used to our traffic. But they know there's no snakes, there's no rats, there's no raccoons that are going to climb up the trees and get to those eggs.
That's like the one. Remember there at the wolf exhibit over at in Lincoln Park Zoo. We did the project there, and they have night herons that nest there. A whole huge group of them.
And it works because, like, this will happen in the wild. There'll be natural rookeries. And there's a draw because the birds frequently have, maybe they have 4 eggs, but they only raise 3 of the chicks, and one of them's kind of a runt. If it falls out and an alligator eats it, it'll sit there for months and see if that happens again, you know? And that provides the protection. So more birds move in, which means more birds fall out. And it all works in a cycle. They're all flying in. Most of these white ibis don't actually nest here, but they spend the night here just for the safety.
Actually, the water clarity here is really good.
You know, all the other pools flow through this park and end up here.
And where does this go?
And this all flows out to a wetland and behind the park.
Okay.
And so this is the clearest end for sure. And as soon as it gets chilly, it clears. You know how pools do. And so this, by far, this is probably as good as it ever looks.
Great.
And part of it is this end, it's all a sand bottom, but the further you go that way, the more muck there is. But they're up here because the water's warmer on this end. And so they're stirring everything up. We call them our dredgers because they're always moving stuff.
Bioturbation.
Exactly.
Animals stirring stuff up.
Designed this to look like an African watering hole, so we have 2 species of vultures and marabou storks and crown cranes.
So the project I just did over at Blake's Exotic Ranch, she has the cranes. And we just redid his earthen bottom pond. It really nasty, thick, organic sediments. So black water, like black is black. So what we did was we came over, we excavated out as much of the soft stuff as possible. We came in with the geotextile fabric, similar to what we're putting in here, but a wider one. We put in layers of that so that'll keep the sediment out, but allows water to permeate through.
Cool.
Covered it up with rock, gravel, boulders, put the big wetland filter on it, and it was filling up, and it was still pretty nasty. And he said within 3 days, he's like spotless. He's like, I see the bottom of it. He's like, but he's got the cranes over Blake's Exotic Ranch, the natural pond that we did a week ago.
You did an outliner, a bog filter.
It was a swamp. I mean, black, nasty. Like one of the guys, we had to pull him out with the excavator. Like he was stuck. Like, you're right. He was not coming out. Like the more he moved, his kept sinking, and I'm like, stop. I'm like, don't even.
Start hyper.
Yeah, at first it was like here, and he's laughing, and he's like, I get out of here. And he starts wiggling a little bit, and then it's at his knees, and he's like,
by the video, it's like,
it's like here, and he's like, I can't get out. He's like, I am stuck.
They strapped him like a boulder and yanked him out.
We yanked him out. We plucked him right out of there.
So I originally designed this with an old Jeep Willys in here, and so we did the tire tracks through the concrete, and but it just rusted out.
No kidding.
After 6 years or so.
Oh, that's cool though.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it was. I have some wonderful photos of the birds sitting on the windshield.
I bet. Very cool.
How do you think a standard pond would survive in this kind of enclosure?
In this type of enclosure with birds? Oh, just birds. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. So this is one of those areas that I wasn't sure. This might be something also that we could look at.
Yeah.
Because there's more open space here than the second spot.
Right.
If you thought this was a good idea here.
Yeah, I do remember this video when you sent that. Yeah, because this is this is the oldest exhibit.
Yeah.
And then this is a large gathering place.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was here, he took me on a tour. There was people
Yeah.
in a full circle around this thing.
Yeah, we do feeding demonstrations with the alligators. Yeah.
I like it. I like the backdrop with the trees. I also like the proximity with fencing and stuff. So it just seems like it'd be a little bit more to scale. You know, like that over there. I think we can do something there, but I think it's got to be
Too
big.
small?
Yeah, I think it would have to be big. You know, and we'd have to probably design in some unique, attributes, for those different animals and everything. So I think.
So two things
would
about
work.
this is, one is we don't want to do anything to damage the oak roots
Sure.
that are here.
Yeah.
That tree's pretty important to us. and
Sure.
It's been struggling a bit. And the other is we probably still want something coming up for the parrots to sit on, which
Yep.
I think would be cool over the waterfall.
Yeah.
So that's really nice.
Absolutely.
We might be able to secure those in with
Yes.
the water feet, like the logs.
Right.
can be
So
secured
those
in.
are just
those are sitting there, right?
Yeah.
sitting there,
they're not actual
cedar or
trees.
something, right?
No,
Those are just
yeah,
cedar
they're
branches.
just cedar. They're just in the ground. You
Yeah.
can reuse those. In fact,
Yeah,
if we
totally.
get the water around them, we probably won't have to have the baffle, because right now we're keeping them from climbing down and trying to come over and get popcorn from the visitors.
Yeah, they wouldn't come down then if you had water in it.
Probably
Yeah.
not. They
Yeah.
might try it a few times, but we'd learn. If
Yeah,
they,
I mean, because it's not a huge feature. I mean, as
And
long as
this will be hand dug, right? We won't
This
be
is
using
all
machinery
hand
like
dug,
at your
no
house.
heavy equipment.
So everything's hand dug, so we would not be destroying
Could
root
I hop in
systems.
here right now?
Of course.
Yeah.
Watch out for those venomous snakes.
So I mean, literally, the pond would be tucked right in that corner, and we would probably have a waterfall right in here. And it wouldn't even be that high.
And if you want to lose some vegetation, fine.
Yeah, we would.
We'll lose it,
definitely have to
reuse it,
pull that
yeah.
out, but yeah, I think we would end up reusing it.
Yeah.
We would probably just have to keep. I mean, the waterfall wouldn't be real high because it doesn't need to be. It's a tight space, and then that would just be more soil, and, retaining walls and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But the pond is literally right in this corner.
Great.
I just think it would be neat, to kind of accent that with another sound of water over here.
You can see
You
it
have
from
lots
three
of-
sides.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice junction.
Yeah.
A lot of open space. So people, kids were hanging out here or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just with anything in there.
Perfect.
You're creative. You'll do something fun with fish in there.
Yeah, well, we had tilapia all over the park. We spread them out as much as we
Yeah.
can.
Did you get a license for that?
Gambusia. The
Gambusia.
Gambusias is what I meant.
Okay.
There are tilapia with the Nile, but I didn't get a license. They just kind of showed up.
With cichlids
Isn't it weird
last
how, like, you
year,
have to have a
or is it too
license to
cold?
buy
Would
them?
you be able to get different types of that
And a
have, like
license to sell
Malawis
them.
or something?
They do all right
here,
in
because, I mean,
if I've got well water flowing, but
Yeah.
just
Here
recycled,
in
they probably
Jacksonville, I think it's
they'd
called
probably
for,
die.
They would never.
Yeah, I know I have some ponds further
Careful.
south
Yeah.
there where
Yes.
we could keep them, but that's 3-4 hours south
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, even Disney has those beautiful cichlids in with their hippos.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Fish
Yeah.
fry.
And goldfish here get picked off by the wading birds pretty easily.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
I tried a koi pond here, and I thought I'll just start with some big koi.
Yeah.
They just gobble them up.
Yeah, no, you're better. On pond of the size, I mean, just a bunch of small fish. Just
Yeah.
just
No,
to-
the Gambusia I love because they're hardy, they're everywhere, they reproduce,
Yeah, perfect.
and they eat the mosquitoes.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is the key.
Yep, and if you lose some, they're
Yeah.
going to keep repopulating. So I think it'll be
We'll
fine.
make more.
Which ones are those, Dad?
Yeah, but this is going to be the standard pond.
No, what'd you call it?
Gambusia?
Yeah, the mosquito
fish.
fish. Sorry.
Well, there's more
What's
than
the-
Gambusia there. There's a lot of
All
different.
right, we are looking at this location. John is giving us a little tour right now. And we got Chris, we got Trevor,
I don't
we
think I don't know.
have
We walked in the tour. I
Jason
don't
and
know.
John over there in the
Where
background.
the real girls
We are
come
looking at the location
from here.
for
Like, so the we came
alligator
in
farm build, and this is going to be
through
our
here.
location
Like, that was the
for,
entrance over there.
Standard pond build.
so I'm not
really,
sure
really
what-
cool.
what
It
it
is
is.
right smack in the middle of everything. We have the oldest exhibit here at St Augustine Alligator Farm. Big kind of a gathering space over in here. But this will be a nice little spot for our decorative
Before you guys leave, make a
They
list.
have different types of paws and parrots and things over in this little section. So the waterfall coming down, reuse some of these little structures inside so people can see all these incredible animals. Great build. That's going to go to all the attendees. I don't think they've ever seen it.
Cool.
right on the edge of a parking lot, just sitting there.
We'll throw it on the top of the Honda or the Mazda.
So there's two of the adult gharial up on the sand
Oh,
there.
yes.
And this is
Such
our baby
a
here.
crazy animal.
Did you have a bunch of them? Did you finally
We
get
just
that?
had one.
They are
Oh,
funky.
that's not the same exhibit.
No.
Aren't they
the-
nuts?
So these are saltwater?
These are a freshwater animal from India. They only eat fish, thus that slender snout that moves through the water very quickly, but can't take a big, giant food item. And they nest in these giant sandbanks, mostly along the Ganges River or the Chambal
And
River.
they're kind of far up on the river, right? Or are they down low? 'Cause
Well-
they can handle
Well, that's-
colder water, don't they?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
right.
well, so that's part
Snow
of a
melt.
study that's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, and during different parts of the dry and wet season, they'll move
Okay.
as it
Yeah.
moves
Yeah.
too. So
So they can take cold water much better than some animals.
Yeah.
But they're really tricky to reproduce, and we think
bet.
part of it is we only have one male. Almost, all the institutions only ever have one male because they want to fight. But I think the fighting is maybe something that produces more hormones and makes them more
Interesting.
virulent.
Yeah.
And so they have these females are laying eggs, but they're frequently almost all infertile clutches, and so it's a challenge, and that's why we're the only one to ever even hatch this one.
Wow.
But it's just this ongoing battle of have we done everything right? We didn't have a sandbank to begin with, and when we went to India, we realized they're nesting 12 feet above the water line because the flood comes
floods.
up to 11 feet,
Yeah,
so they got to
exactly.
keep their
Right.
eggs out of that water line or they drown.
yeah.
And so as soon as we put the bank in, the next year, they went way up there and laid their
Okay.
eggs up
And that's
high. That
something.
was
Right.
important to
Yeah,
us.
that is.
we
That
also
totally
give them
makes sense.
supplemental
Hard
heat
wired.
because it's like 40 degrees Celsius there. It felt so hot, like just being out, my skin felt crispy. Like it was hot. So we're actually at like the coolest temp these crocodiles
Wow.
would be out in the wild. So
So you supplement that with
we've got a couple different like heating coils
In the sand.
that go throughout the sand and pig
Just a big
blankets and
radiator.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, that's great.
and then the radiant
Now,
comes
what is this stuff inside of here? It's like a weird algae.
Okay.
Or did you try it?
No.
No.
So this is my problem. So I have deep water wells, and that is how my algae grows, as though it's on steroids from the sulfur that comes out of the well. And so it's white because of the sulfur layer that gets laid on top of it, and the algae grows at like 6 times the rate of any normal algae.
It could be chemosynthetic.
It's also
photosynthetic, so it could be
the sulfur precipitates during these colder weathers,
Yeah.
during this colder temp. And when it starts to warm up, then it'll be like green again. You won't really see the
Interesting.
sulfur.
And it's a problem if I only have a couple gallons.
Instead of using photosynthesis, it would use the hydrogen sulfide in the water for growth.
If I only have like a 2-inch pipe and a couple gallons a minute coming out of it, the sulfur builds up in the pipe.
Wow.
It can actually close a water line off,
Wow.
and then if you go through and exercise the valves, you'll blow out this string. And if it's laying in the pool, it kind of looks like intestines from an animal or something. It's
But
really
you
disgusting
can pick
stuff.
it up and throw it out then.
So what we've been trying to do is aerate the water beforehand.
Yeah, because it will.
But in the process of
Relax it.
aerating it, we're cooling it. So
Yeah.
on a 40-degree night, that's doing the opposite of what I want to do.
Yeah.
So we've been working with a chemist now, trying to figure out whether we could do a hydrogen peroxide
That's what I was
drip
gonna. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
and see if that will. So I actually just bought your
Dosing system?
your dosing system
Yeah.
to see if I can make that work. Or we're just going to take a pool and test it out. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
And dose it and just see what it takes to kill the algae and precipitate out the hydrogen sulfide and get clean water without having to aerate it.
Yeah.
Because I'm losing too much. I'm paying, through the nose
Yeah.
in energy costs to
Sure.
reheat water that was
Sure,
already
sure,
at
sure.
a good temperature.
Right.
Now you're recirculating that water into here, though, right?
I am using that's fresh well water,
Yeah.
so that's why it looks like that, and that overflows into that, and this overflows into a trap, and all of it ends up in that swamp. So this is
Old
with the
plumbing.
dosing. If you do the dosing, it's all just going to work its way down.
well, or I'm
So that's
gonna,
something to keep
I
in
may
mind.
be able to recycle this or just try another pool. I'm just curious if it'll work and how much.
Yeah,
That dosing just gets expensive if it's a huge, like if it's that many bodies of water. Now your
Yeah.
5,000 gallons of water, it can be more expensive than a
Yeah.
500-gallon pond.
Pond, there's 2 adult Siamese crocodiles, but then they're babies as well. And so we like to display them this way because people think of them as eating their offspring or being
right,
really
right.
aggressive towards babies, but they're really good parents.
They are.
And also, part of the reason we want them to be raised by their parents is these are endangered species that are slated to be re-released in the wild.
Oh.
And they're much better crocodiles if they've learned how to be a crocodile from their parents and if
Sure.
you raise them in a tub.
Yeah, makes sense. Totally makes sense.
So she kind of put up like it this year. But the other morning I came, she didn't ask her anything. She just kind of watched it. The other morning I came and she had food and she was trying to push it in his face. So I think she's into it now. These are a species of hornbill from Indonesia. And hornbills have this fascinating relationship. They pair bond very strongly. And when they find each other and start to pair bond, they start to feed each other. And it's this process of a female teaching a male what she likes to eat. Because in their nesting cycle, they find a big hollow spot in a tree somewhere, and they get in it, excavate it out as a nesting site, and then they seal it up with mud and food and feces until it's just a slit. And she stays in there and lays the fertile eggs and raises the chick until they're chicks until they're ready to fly. And they're entirely dependent on the male bringing food to them.
That's cool.
So he goes out and hunts, and he comes back and shoves food in that little slit.
Oh, good.
And at first it's just the female, and then there's a chick
For how long?
and all that kind of stuff.
She's just,
It can be the whole process. She's in there maybe 2.5 months, maybe 3 months. So it's quite an experience for her.
Sure.
So they really have to like each other.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a new pair for us, and it's fun to watch them because she'll give him a piece of food, and it's kind of like, I want you to give that back. That's what I like. I want you,
Yeah.
and he'll eat it, and she'll be like, smack him around, and he'll cough it back up and kind of give it to her, and it's this whole training process.
That's funny.
The world of animals, they're fun.
Yeah.
So there's the biggest one in there is this mom with a baby sitting right on her shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And the little guys over here are the ones Steve Irwin used to call the freshies. The Johnson's crocodile. This is the best time to do this. No visitor, time to quiet.
Right.
This is the largest pigeon in the world, the
Oh.
Victorian crown pigeon.
Impressive.
And this is a new pair too. They're getting along really well.
oh, good.
Huh.
I want baby. Make baby.
Uh-huh.
I can't tell. Is that a Julie right there?
No, that's a whole another species, a type of mouse bird.
Let's see.
Kind of looks like
Just like a long tail of the,
Yeah.
the pigeon.
We like multi-species exhibits to get that interaction. It's a lot healthier way to house them.
Speaking of pigeons, like I was looking up like slang words for pigeons.
Because everybody does.
Because I was just I was like rock dove, which is a pigeon,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
I'm like-
a dove is a pigeon with a better PR department.
Yes.
Correct. So that's what I was like. I was like, okay, so it's rock dove. I was like, I wonder what else they're called.
Uh-huh.
And then you get into it, and it's like,
Rats.
yeah, sky rats, ledgepecker, bum chicken, you know, all kinds of stuff. So it was, you know, it was a long list. I'm not the only one. that
There's
was
a
looking
baby
up
in the
slangs for
water, a
pigeons.
baby right here on the edge.
Mhm.
So these are a slender snouted species, kind of like the gharial, but these
Okay.
are from Africa, and their nose isn't near as long.
But
Do
vice
they keep the
versa.
stripes?
What's that?
Do they keep the stripes?
Yeah, actually they do. Most of them don't, but our adults are very striped, and they could be over on this side. But Jen is actually responsible for this pair breeding. They came out of the wild, and they were an adult pair in our collection for years, and they never reproduced, and it was a real struggle. And when she worked here as a keeper, she said, I think they need some privacy. And so she built an area in the back and gave them a little spot and dirt and sand, and we stuck a sprinkler back there, and that's all it took. The female needed that spot to nest. She didn't want to do out here in front of everybody else. And so our first offspring were due to Jane Brueggen.
Yes, this is my favorite enclosure, favorite pair.
Nice. Well, you get the connection with them, you know.
Yeah, it took a long time to crack the code. And now they've had over 3 clutches since then.
Wow.
Of their, every couple of years, they get more babies. Which they're a critically endangered species, so need more.
This is the largest of the caiman species, the black caiman.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Very beautiful animal. They're unique for 2 reasons. One is they have the largest eye of any of the crocodilians. They have kind of a big brown cow eye. But also you kind of see how her spine shows. It's sticking up there. In any other species, you'd say, oh, that's a malnourished animal. There's something wrong with it. But that's characteristic of adult black caiman. For some reason, their spine raises like that.
Interesting.
Cuban crocodile. Come here. Turn around. Come on. This is an animal that is very alert, and they're from Cuba. They're a very small population down there, but they do really well on land. They're excellent jumpers, and they run and gallop as fast as any of the crocodilians.
Oh.
Yeah, if you want a real thrill, you chased by one of those guys. And someone pushing you on the back. Keep moving. Woo.
Just have to be faster than that person.
I was. Gomez was a confirmed man eater. He's definitely had
Oh, really?
people on the menu.
Yeah.
But he was so
People on the
laid back. He was so laid back here that our curator of reptiles could get, when the water is drained, could be down to the bottom with that crocodile, but you can't be with Maximo.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would poop myself.
Come on, you've seen enough air.
How much are they feeding this time of the year? Are they eating a lot right now?
This pool's warm, and he's still
Oh, it is
been on
warm?
a feeding schedule.
Okay.
So, but he kind of goes when he wants to. There'll be a time where he just says, "Okay, I'm done for a week or a month." So
Why are you putting a picture right over here?
Oh, look at you, dude.
What's your beard?
Yeah, right. Creepy.
Yeah, with the dark, it's kind of funky, huh?
Yeah. So they have a nictitating membrane, so his eye looks a little cloudy because he actually has a third eyelid that covers up his eyes when he's underwater. And then you get to look at the osteoderms. Each one of those is a floating bone. It's not attached to the rest of the skeleton. And there's blood vessels to all of them, so they're perfect little solar
Radiator.
panels. Yeah.
Wow. Floating bones. Hey there, bud. God, look at the size of that thing. Jesus. He's the size of the log. The log
Yeah.
that we used on the edge.
He literally,
Half feet.
it's exactly what it is.
He is fucking enormous.
When this species is born, it's smaller than his toe.
Say, what did you say?
When this species is born, it's hatched, they're smaller than Maximo's toe.
That's just mental.
Exactly.
Look at the size of it.
It's walk.
It's like the size of a short bus. Oh yeah.
We've been to the Philippines where they did catch lowlong, and lowlong was 21 feet.
That's insane.
Maximo's
Yeah.
almost 16.
I remember seeing that picture of that. That
He
was just blue. That was
gnarly
just
and
nuts.
All right, that was nice.
So what's his name?
They're Maximo.
Maximo.
Thanks, buddy.
Those are models. Yeah.
The replicas, this is Dinosuchus. It would have been about a 40-foot alligator-like thing that was living in Utah.
Yes.
And then the other one is more like a gharial. That's Sarcosuchus.
Oh, that's cool. Look at that.
And that one was out of Morocco.
That's awesome.
And then this was a croc that used to live here. He was in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the largest living crocodile at the time. It was 17 feet 9.5 inches. And he is the known man-eater. He had figured out how to turn over small canoes in New Guinea and just eat whoever fell out. And so he was terrorizing a few villages that that all their commerce was on the river.
Sure.
So people were scared to death to go out until he got caught. So there's a couple pictures on the wall of him eating here.
So we say he was a confirmed man-eater.
Yeah.
And then you can see we have a couple people that were, towards the end of his life, he was fine with people being in. You can't do that with Maximo now. He'll go for you.
Okay.
Pass the
Wow.
food.
Right. Jeez.
Yeah, it's funny that way. So this is like somebody we know ate people, and I've seen pictures of people sitting on his tail for photos when he was after years of being in captivity. And then you have Maximo that you just saw underwater that was born in captivity, and he will take any opportunity to get to you. So very different personalities for sure.
Yeah.
Or just like he's retired and cool
Yeah.
being there forever.
Yeah, exactly.
I had my fun.
He's estimated to have passed away at about the 80s. He was, around World War II, this croc was spotted. So,
Jeez, that's incredible.
yeah.
All the artwork here, is that all real?
All Papua New Guinea artwork, yeah. Yeah, so John had a really good idea with over just displaying animals and displaying GOMEC was also bringing the culture of the areas to the exhibit.
Yeah, when
So
I
really
got here,
immersing
honestly, I
people.
didn't like this room. It was only a dead crocodile and some signs on the wall about its life. And so I started realizing that there's all this beautiful culture that the New Guinea people carve crocodiles in their artwork, And I said, well, we've got to get some of that, at least show the small canoes that they were in and that kind of stuff. And so we were able to just become friends with, including the guy who captured this crocodile, spent a lot of his life in New Guinea trading for this fun stuff. And so he's a fascinating character.
Yeah.
His name's George, and he created his own currency because he says, I'm going to go down the Sepik River and I want to trade for spears and crocodile prows and all this stuff. But if I go down there with money, they'll just kill me and take it. So he went to the head of the river, to the general store, and gave them all his money. And said, if you get a note with my name on it, it'll say how much it's worth. So he'd go to the tribe and say, I want 15 of these canoe prows, and that's worth 3 bags of sugar. You can go trade this in at the general store. So he had nothing they could steal from him, except his name, And so he went and he'd get boatloads of this stuff and then come back to the U.S. or come back to parts of Australia and trade it. So,
wow. That's cool. Yeah, I did a fish expedition in West Papua. So we were in West Papua, and then we went up into Rajamput, and we, island hopped and stuff.
We've never made it there yet.
That's on
our list.
Island.
Sounds
So
beautiful.
it's insane. Yeah, we actually found a new species of rainbow fish.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, on one of the, I forget what island it was. It might have been Waigeo, but we parked the canoe We took it up the river as far as we can go, and we got out and just walked. And we went to the base of this big giant waterfall, and this pool was probably the size of this room. Big giant tall waterfall, no species of rainbow fish above it, none really below it because that was brackish water. So this little freshwater pool had the only living community of these fish. It was this tiny little thing. We were snorkeling in there.
How
Crazy.
cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, really cool.
I wonder if they know who's the guy that you know.
Heiko Blair. So he is a world-renowned ichthyologist, and he's got, I don't know how many, he's been to 206 countries.
Wow.
That's
Just about. The only places he hasn't gone are places that don't have fresh water, because he's a freshwater guy.
Oh.
So if they don't have a river or a lake, he's
This
not
guy.
even on his
She
list.
keeps saying she wants to go to Europe. I'm like, there's no
I keep telling him there's cool stuff to see in Europe, and he's like, the crocodiles
You
here.
look at the pins on my map in my office, they're all pretty
We're all-
equator-like.
yeah. Right around the equator.
That's cool.
Take him out there.
You know, I mean, it's just like you're in an art gallery.
Well,
It's like
so part of that is Disney and me. Like I think I
makes sense.
was
Yeah, for
when
sure.
you come in my
I mean,
house, I have a shark-themed bathroom and a Indiana Jones themed room. You know, it just gets in me.
Yeah.
But so I kind of want when people come through an exhibit, them to get, okay, that's an animal and it's
Yeah.
from this place
Yeah.
and the art looks like this and the music
Right.
sounds
Yeah.
like this and get immersed.
Totally
You know,
makes
feel
sense.
like
I
really
agree.
got there.
100%. So big-headed turtle. Where's Chris at? We started talking with the TSA. So where's he at?
Yeah.
We started talking with the TSA about creating a breeding facility, breeding ponds for the big-headed because they need fast-moving water and waterfalls and
right.
cool water. But we Turtle Survival Lines. So they're over in South Carolina. It's a cool turtle,
They're
but
not a
that's
great
like,
exhibit animal because of this very reason.
yeah, they're secretive.
Yeah.
They're so like.
Their head is just giant compared to the rest of the body. Just like this big, powerful head. They could actually crawl up waterfalls. Like they have like almost a prehensile tail. Like they could actually use it to kick themselves up and big, powerful claws and stuff. That's a small one. But yeah, like the bigger ones, the head is just like ridiculously large compared to the rest of the body. But they've have not had luck breeding them. And they are still, the eggs are still, well again, you go to Southeast Asia and turtle eggs and turtle meat is still, I mean, it's just commonplace. And that's what's, it's destroyed all of them, as well as agriculture and just like everywhere else. You
If
know.
they can find it, they eat it.
They eat it, exactly. Yeah, so we were talking with TSA about doing, remember that, Chris? When we went to the TSA in South Carolina, we were talking about doing the big-headed turtle ponds.
Yeah.
I gotta reach back out to them and see if it.
The tough part of our job is in situations like that I can breed these and we get kind of good at breeding them, but you can't just go stick them back in the place where everybody's going to collect them and eat them again. You got to now invest in somebody's going to protect this habitat somehow.
Yeah, right.
I was so ignorant prior to going there, and then just listening to, I forget what the guy's name was, but the director over there.
Yeah.
You know, some of the stories. And just,
Oh, yeah.
Again, so naive as to what really happens.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
especially over in Southeast Asia.
Was that
and
Rick
some of these
Hudson? Was
places.
that-
Rick Hudson, yeah.
But it was fascinating,
Mhm.
sadly, right?
Sure.
You
No,
know,
right.
in a
That's the
way.
struggle that we're all dealing with. And
Yeah.
we got pretty good at breeding Chinese alligators for a while, and we're able to bring some of our babies back there.
Nice.
But it took this commitment from the Chinese government to protect an island and put sandbanks in and put food species on in the area. And then they had grad students that would go out. We would put radio transmitters in them, so the grad students would go out and track where they were and make sure nobody was messing with them and all that.
Mhm.
It's an investment, no matter
Yeah.
how you do it.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And again, this type of stuff, I mean, when you look at it, you know, I'm a conservation person and environmental guy and all that stuff, but when you look at like the biosphere, it's all about diversity, and you start destroying keystone species, it's
Yeah.
like there's a ripple effect from that.
No
we
doubt.
don't even know the effects of it really, so
Sure.
it's kind of scary.
That's true. This building is the strongest building on Anastasia Island, steel framed and then concrete block that we poured solid. And
Wow.
so in any situation of a hurricane threat, We can capture all of our birds and monkeys in about 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
And they go in sky kennels and come in this
No
building.
kidding. Wow.
Anywhere that we don't feel like they're not in a safe enough area. Like
Yeah.
the lemurs, we rebuilt theirs, a big
Yeah.
concrete structure. They'll stay
Yeah.
there. But so they can stay in
That's
here,
cool.
and then this building runs off of a generator that's now attached to natural gas, so that's kind of indefinite power available
Yeah.
to it. So that's our hurricane strategy for
Wow.
birds and mammals. The crocs pretty much handle themselves. pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Right, we just drop water level and they hunker down
Yeah,
and
sure.
can care less if
I believe
the
it.
whole thing was leveled. They're just like, we're waiting for everything to settle down. You know?
That's a big king cobra in there.
So it's like a catch-22 room right here. This is where you can come to be safe, but
But
you
you
don't
don't
get
get
out. You're not safe.
With this,
Well, Florida Fish and Wildlife has very strict rules on hurricane procedure for venomous. So, like that snake goes in a big pillowcase tied in a knot, goes in another big pillowcase tied in a knot, goes in a toolbox that's locked,
Wow.
and then we stack those venomous cages,
Just in
venomous
case
locks
the
in
building
here.
opens up and they
Yeah.
can get out.
Wow.
That's
because
it.
every venomous
Wow.
enclosure is also locked right now.
And we have to do that with conditional species too. And I'll tell you
Okay.
honestly, the python problem in South Florida is not a result of careless pet owners. It's a result of Hurricane Andrew. And none of those things were in place. People were told to evacuate, which they did, but they brought their dog, they left their snake. Because I'll get it. It doesn't have to eat for 2 weeks. It'll be fine.
Right.
But they got back and their house was gone and their snake was out in the wild.
That's the same thing with the lionfish. There's the
Yeah,
same thing.
right.
Lionfish over in the reefs.
Yeah.
It was because of the.
And we try to make all these rules and everything now to protect against these careless pet owners, but that wasn't the problem. People spend $180 on a snake. They don't just go toss it in the wild most of the time. As a kid, I was fascinated with all things Egypt, and I got some photos of me when I made my mom make me a King Tut mask with my actual face and stuff. You know, all that stuff. So I was just like in my element.
I remember going to that exhibit when it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
It was incredible. My dad.
Cool stuff. And
Really
another
cool.
group of people that venerated crocodiles and mummified crocodiles and crocodile gods. I mean, it all ties in so well for us. It's good. All right. Enjoy your evening.
Yeah, you
and,
too. Appreciate it.
We'll
Thanks for
see
sharing.
you tomorrow.
See you in the morning.
Great. Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
night. See ya.